Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings.
My
It's
my delicate Cretan flower. Oh, I tell you, I'm excited because probably when this show airs, I'll be in Japan or South Korea.
Sweet. What will you be doing there?
I will be in Japan. We are doing American craft beer invasion, American craft beer event or something. So in Tokyo on the 20th and Osaka on the 21st. And we're going to do talks and serve beer and all that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to go hit a whole bunch of events the days leading up to that. Going to go around and meet some homebrewers, go to some accounts that serve our beer.
Excellent. That
and then
sounds like a lot of fun.
In South Korea, we're going to do some stuff as well. And
you should go to North Korea while you're there. See what the beer scene's like up there. If you want to come back with some real stories, cross that border.
I'll still have some real stories. Yeah, my daughter was telling me there's MERS in South Korea. 12 people dead or something like that.
Boy. Don't you catch a disease every time you travel to another?
Yes. Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome.
I'm pretty sure last time you came back with something from somewhere else.
There's no cure for it, and 27% of people die.
Oh, God.
They have no. So, you're right. So, no, my daughter's studying public health, so she knows a whole lot of diseases and where people are dying all over the world.
Yeah.
So, she's going with me.
Okay.
Which I'm not too comfortable with now. I was comfortable with it until I learned that people died. But
she can come back and tell Justin all about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She'll probably live. I'll die.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're not going to make it.
Right. No. So, yeah, they gave me a typhoid vaccine. They gave me hepatitis A and B vaccine. They skipped the Japanese encephalitis. They said, don't get bit by a mosquito. That's what they told me.
Like, that's easy to do.
Right. I'm like, oh, okay. I get bit here in the studio. I don't know. And, no, we're going to go do at a homebrew shop. I give them some recipes, and people are going to brew these recipes, and we're going to have like a little competition at this homebrew shop. We're going to homebrew, and then we're going to have this little competition and see who brewed the best beer based on some of my recipes.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Drink some heretic beer. Gonna be a blast.
It's very cool.
South Korea.
Yeah. Speaking of biting.
Speaking of biting, our friend John Blickman. He bites. I'm sure he does. Has he ever bitten you?
Not that I remember. I was drunk at the time.
Right. Have you ever bitten John?
Not that I remember.
Not that I remember. I take the fifth. I plead the fifth. I do not remember anything of that sort, officer, counselor,
Mary Ellen,
Your Honor. Yes, Mary Ellen. Do not remember. I do not remember engaging in that activity, Doctor. Blickman listens to all these shows.
He does.
And every once in a while he sends me an email going, I caught up on shows. A couple of things.
Well, this time it's going to be, I don't care what Palmer remembers. He did bite me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He'll say, yeah, bite me. He'll tell me, bite me. No, I'll tell you, he's a funny, clever guy, and really interested in homebrew, and he uses that cleverness to innovate great homebrew equipment. So check him out, BlickmanEngineering.com. Blickman with 2 N's. There's some G's and stuff in engineering, and a dot for .com.
Right.
Check it out. He'll also be at the Homebrewers Conference, so if you hear this before then, go
sure to be
say
some
hi.
interesting stuff there.
Yeah, they're always innovating your brew day. Clever guy, and they've been paying for this show for 8 years or however long we've been doing this one.
Yeah.
So you don't have to. So at the very least you can do is give them a thank you and say hi. All right. Last show we were deep into the throes of mash temperatures and times. Yep. And we wanted to continue that. We left off with the thermostability of enzymes. And you were just going to talk about mash in temperatures.
Yeah. Well, to give everybody a little recap, if they're just tuning into this one versus the last one, we're trying to address concerns in the forums and the questions. How long do we need to mash? How long is too long? If the enzymes are denaturing during the mash, is it pointless to keep on mashing if after they're gone? So we're looking at some of the scientific literature in the Journal of the American Society of Brewing Chemists, among other things, and trying to put some numbers to these questions. Put a ballpark around this the behavior in the mash, so we can address some of these questions. Last show we talked about the factors that affect conversion, such as degree of crush, pH, water to grist ratio, enzyme content, how changing base malts from one company to another, 1 year to another, can also change how the mash change the wort that you get from the mash. Even if your mash schedule is exactly the same, changing the malt can give you, lower fermentability, higher fermentability, lower extract, higher extract. I mean, there's a lot of changes that can take place. So, kind of looking at the enzymes in the mash, we talked about how beta amylase and limit dextranase, 2 of the 3 enzymes that are primarily responsible for starch conversion to sugars, they're not very heat stable. That once you get above 65 C, which is kind of the typical finish of gelatinization, or where the starches become soluble in the mash, and the enzymes can start acting on them. Once you get above that temperature, 65 C, 147 F, these beta amylase and limit dextranase start denaturing. That is, they start uncoiling. They start losing their shape that allows them to act like keys in a lock to break up the starch molecules. So, finally, the life of beta amylase at these temperatures, just above 64 C, 148, 150 F, is about 30 minutes. But again, that number can vary depending on many factors, including barley variety, crop year, malt stir, etc. Okay, just use it as a kind of a ballpark number. So let's look at now the effect of mash in temperature. We talked about how if you mash in above the gelatinization temperature, this is beneficial because you have not given a lot of time for denaturing to occur. The starches are readily soluble, and beta amylase and the other amylase enzymes can go right to work. And I'm talking about a single temperature infusion mash where you've got dry grain, you add 160-degree water, and infuse, and now you come out at a mash temperature of 150 F or 148 F, somewhere right there, just above the gelatinization temperature. Now you've got the best beta amylase and limit dextrinase activity that you can get for the longest period of time. If you go any higher, they're going to denature faster. They'll work a little faster, but they'll also denature faster, and you'll get less fermentability. So for the most fermentable wort, you want to be right above the gelatinization temperature. But let's look at, if we go in at a different temperature. Jamil, do you use protein rests in any of your mashing at Heretic?
No, we don't. We have the ability to do multi-step mashes, and I tried them as a home brewer, and I just found very little benefit to doing so. Mm-hmm. But that was me. I'm told, or I have read that Charlie Papazian does a protein rest on every beer.
Mm-hmm. And many people do. When you do a protein rest, we used to talk about different levels of protein rest, low temperature protein rest, a high temperature protein rest, say 115 F to 130 F, difference. But again, it's one of those situations where you've got lots of different groups of protein enzymes, more than just two. You have, a group of like 20 that are all having some effect on the proteins, in the malt, in the mash. And between all these combinations, you really can't optimize for one effect over another. You can't really enhance foam stability without also increasing your potential for haze. Mm-hmm. It all kind of happens in parallel, just like starch conversion. Mm-hmm. We used to have to do, and when I say we used to have to do this, I'm talking 200 years ago, 100 years ago.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Malt modification wasn't as extensive. They didn't have the tools for measuring malt modification, degree of malt modification that we do now. Mm-hmm. And so malts tend to be less modified. That is, the protein matrix that surrounds the starch granules was more intact at the end of malting. And so it took a protein rest in the mash, or even sometimes a decoction step in the mash, to fully break down that matrix and help release those starch granules and get them soluble for the saccharification enzyme activity. Mm-hmm. So from the standpoint of modern, well-modified malts, and by well-modified, I mean, I generally mean malts with a Kolbach index greater than 40, 40%. You get a better yield with well-modified malts when you mash in above the gelatinization temperature, because they become soluble. You have immediate amylase activity. You haven't started denaturing anything yet, or prior to that, by ramping up slowly to that temperature. Mm-hmm. You get better fermentability with well-modified malts when you mash in above the gelatinization temperature. Mm-hmm. If you do a protein rest, you will significantly increase the free aminonitrogen, the FAN content of the wort. Mm-hmm. However, if you do a protein rest, you will not generally get higher extract yield from a well-modified malt. That is going to be relatively unchanged.
So I've always wondered if, there's something about protein rest that actually improves. People thought it was better because they weren't pitching enough yeast, they weren't pitching enough healthy yeast, they weren't, monitoring their fermentation as well, and so, there was something like more free aminonitrogen that actually helped their fermentation. And so that's why they believed that they were getting a better beer by doing decoctions or by doing a protein rest. These people insist on it, and the stuff that I've done, I'm not seeing that result. But I always wondered, well, the way that a lot of these folks are doing their fermentation, maybe they're not really focused on the yeast, and that's the issue. And so there's something about that is lending itself to improving fermentation.
Yeah, that could be one factor, yeah.
You could just throw in some nutrient and pitch more yeast, and you're off and running instead of doing a protein rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder about this with the free amino nitrogen. I see that, and I'm thinking, Yeah. I mean, maybe there was something to my addled mind wandering.
Right. Yeah, and, even today, I mean, generally malts are well modified. I mean, the big brewers, really pushed for that over the last, 50, 100 years. They wanted, high diastatic power, malts that are easy to mash, and again, in the interest of time and money, getting high throughput through a commercial brewery, they were pushing for highly modified malt. You can still find less modified malt that, would benefit from a short protein rest, to yield a little more extract. But generally, with well-modified malts, doughing in or mashing in above the gelatinization temp, you are not going to get a significant increase in fermentability or extract yield today.
Oh, there you go. Let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll hear more about mash time and temperature right after this.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy. Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters, this is Jamil Zanisha, and I love a bold, hoppy beer, one that spits resin in your face and makes you cry uncle. There are a lot of great hoppy beers out there, but at Heretic, we want to make something as bold, dank, and resiny as possible. We use hops at every chance we get, including multiple dry hop additions. The result is Heretic Evil Cousin. This light golden, 8% Imperial IPA has an easy malt character that helps take the edge off the massive bittering, but it takes a back seat to the in-your-face hop character. We make sure this beer finishes dry so the hops can jump out and slam you in the taste buds. If you can't get enough hoppy goodness, Evil Cousin is your cup of tea. Cheers.
When When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at Cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
For nearly 40 years, one organization has had your back. The American Homebrewers Association. Are you a member? Why not? Join the more than 40,000 brewers who enjoy all the American Homebrewers Association has to offer. Like Zymergy Magazine, in print and online, plus the Zymergy app. Zymergy is the leading publication for amateur brewers around the world. Supporters also get member deals at their local breweries, bars, and homebrew shops. These alone quickly pay for your membership. You'll also get great member-only resources at homebrewersassociation.org and access to AHA events like the National Homebrewers Conference and the National Homebrew Competition. The American Homebrewers Association promotes the hobby of homebrewing, protects the interests of homebrewers, and brings beer lovers together. Become a member today. It costs less than a batch of beer and gives back so much more. Visit homebrewersassociation.org.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. John,
Yes?
more about mash time?
Okay. We got time for that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You were talking about long ramp times between a protein rest and saccharification.
Yeah.
You're going to kill your beta amylase.
That's right. The problem with the thermal instability of beta amylase and limit dextranase is, they are denaturing. And so if you do a protein rest, if you're going to do a multi-step mash, whether this is a home or a commercial brewery, and you take a long time in ramping between them, you are going to, it's like you've got the patient on the operating table, you cut them open, and then you wait around for a while they bleed before you get around to doing the open heart surgery or liver transplant or whatever, favorite surgery you have in mind.
Right, a lot of people that are doing step mashes, they don't rise faster than a degree a minute.
Yeah.
And so you end up, 20 minutes in plus. At least
5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
That can be, that's 10 minutes out of that 30-minute window that we have for, the thermal stability of the beta amylase. So that's something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
If depending on what your method is for raising your mash temperature, if you're doing, multiple infusions in a cooler, you may want to make sure that you've got, sufficiently hot water to raise that temperature quickly. Or if you're doing it on a pot on the stove or with a RIM system or a HERM system,
mm-hmm.
That you've got the equipment and the capability to make that ramp happen, in a reasonable amount of time. 1 degree a minute, 2 degrees a minute is a good goal.
Could it be that these folks who say, doing a protein rest gives me like a thicker, richer beer and, better body and and all that because they're taking this long time to raise their mash temp, and then they've killed off all the beta amylase, and so all they get is really alpha amylase activity. Eventually.
That could be one factor there, yeah.
And so they're getting a lot more long-chain sugars, and then it ends up, a
little sweeter, a little richer.
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, no, that's what did it, was the protein rest in the step mash versus they could just, single infusion at a higher temp.
Yeah. Yeah, it's doing a two-step beta and alpha rest, if you're looking for a drier beer, is still a good idea with these well-modified malts. Mm-hmm. You can, what you're doing is you're maximizing your beta rest and your beta life in the beer, and really helping to produce lots of maltose versus say going to an intermediate mash temperature of say 154 between beta and alpha. Mm-hmm. But depending on your equipment, depending on your malt, and other parameters, like Firestone, you can achieve very similar worts, similar fermentability, total extract yield, fan, wort pH, and so on, with a single infusion versus the multi-step. But that kind of finding that temperature that works for you and your process and your recipe is something, is a matter of trial and error. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do that work, but that solution is out there. Let's look at the other end of the scale now. We've talked a bit about mashing for 30 minutes, mashing for 60 minutes. How that doesn't really hurt anything. Just because the majority of the conversion is happening in the first 15 minutes and in the first 30 minutes. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to stop. You can let it continue for the full hour. On the other hand, if you do only a short, say 20-minute rest at 64 C, 147 F, you can run into the situation where you don't give enough time for conversion to occur. And this is more likely in what we call ultra-thick mashes, very low water to grist ratios. Water to grist ratios around 1 quart per pound or 2 liters per kilogram. These are very thick mashes or ultra-thick mashes, and it is difficult to get the enzyme mobility and activity in an ultra-thick mash over short mashing times. The studies I was looking at suggested that for those conditions, a mashing time of 30 to 40 minutes produced much better yield and fermentability than a short 20-minute mash. Mm-hmm. Let's see. From one of Evans' papers in 2011, he cited that for small-scale single infusion mashes at 65 C, 149 F, the moving from a 30 to a 60-minute mash increased the percent extract by about 1% and increased the percent fermentability by about 5% from 30 to 60 minutes versus 30 minutes alone.
Right. The 1% extract increase is hardly anything.
Right. Very small.
Doesn't really do anything. But the 5% increase in attenuation,
that can be helpful.
That's substantial.
Yeah.
So longer mash times on those lower temperature mashes.
Yeah.
Because generally the reason why somebody's doing a lower temperature mash in the first place is that they want fermentability.
Yeah. Okay. So be aware of these trade-offs. I mean, you can get a majority of it done in a shorter amount of time, and if that is economically viable for you, great. But if you're looking for better fermentability, then going for the longer mash is better. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Give a little more put some more numbers to these mash times. In about 15 minutes, according to Evans, you'll get about 80% of your total fermentability in the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. That will climb to about 85% of the total fermentability after 30 minutes, and about 90% of the total fermentability after 60 minutes. So there's, again, different study, different malts, but the same kind of trend, mm-hmm. Majority, a little bit more with increasing time.
Well, and I've always espoused in my BYO articles, if you're doing something that's, low mash temp and you've got, you're shooting for fermentability, go 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And you pretty much have captured as much as you're going to capture at that point.
That's right. Yeah. And you're not hurting anything. You're, at saccharification temperatures, your protein enzymes have long denatured, so you're not breaking anything down, in terms of your head retention or more haze. Mm-hmm. All you're doing is getting that little bit more fermentability, a little bit more extract that you may want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's see. And again, as we were saying, if you go higher temperatures than, say, 65 or 148 F, this conversion will happen more quickly, but will also end sooner. So the net effect of going higher in temperature is to decrease the fermentability of that wort compared to the maximum fermentability for that barley, mm-hmm. that malt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just kind of look at my notes here. Again, these further additions of extract and fermentability are attributed to the actions of alpha amylase and glucosidase, mm-hmm. Generating more fermentable sugars, mm-hmm. not just dextrins. Mm-hmm. They also produce, in a random manner, mm-hmm. they will produce shorter fermentable sugars as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Why don't we do this? One more break, and when we come back, we can talk about the crush and how that affects the mash.
Good.
Sounds good. All right, we'll be back right after this.
The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
Do you like beer? They make beer.
Watch out!
Do you like friends and fun? They make friends and fun.
Watch out!
Do you still like to have a good time? The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
The 21st Amendment in San Francisco, located at 563 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the building where baseball is seen and played. Try their beers in the pub or try them in the can, featuring
Monk's Blood.
Made with real monk.
Watch out!
So why not have the best time of your life? Go to the 21A and Sean O'Sullivan will personally greet you with a can of
Monk's Blood. The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
This advertisement is not in any way affiliated nor associated with the 21st Amendment Bar and Pub, nor its subsidiaries or affiliates. This telecast is not copywritten by the 21st Amendment for the private use of the Brewing Network. Any use of this telecast without Jamil Zainashev's consent is prohibited. Sock it, JP.
The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
Do you like beer? They make beer.
Watch out!
Do you like friends and fun? They make friends and fun.
Watch out!
Do you still like to have a good time? The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
The 21st Amendment in San Francisco, located at 563 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the building where baseball is seen and played. Try their beers in the pub or try them in the can, featuring
Monk's Blood.
Made with real monk.
Watch out!
So why not have the best time of your life? Go to the 21A and Sean O'Sullivan will personally greet you with a can of
Monk's Blood. The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
This advertisement is not in any way affiliated nor associated with the 21st Amendment Bar and Pub, nor its subsidiaries or affiliates. This telecast is not copywritten by the 21st Amendment for the private use of the Brewing Network. Any use of this telecast without Jamil Zainashev's consent is prohibited. Suck it, JP.
BN Army, I'm here to talk seriously for a second. You all are partially responsible for something explosive, and it's time you answer for it.
Moonlight Meadery is exploding.
Yeah, exploding across the country. Wait, they just landed in Australia with insane quality meads.
With nearly 70 different varieties of mead on the market, Moonlight Meadery has blown up the mead category and completely reinvented it.
Seriously?
What?
Seriously.
What?
You're paying money for that watered-down mead when you could have a Moonlight mead?
Moonlight meads explode with quality and flavor.
They're a party in a bottle.
Did someone say party?
If you want mead and want the best, you want meads from Moonlight Meadery and will accept nothing less.
And now get 15% off by going to moonlightmeadery.com/BNArmy and use coupon code BNArmy at checkout.
Hey, sign me up for that party.
A few things happened 30 years ago.
ARPANET migrated to TCP/IP, and the Internet was born. Revenge of the Jedi was renamed Return of the Jedi and opened in theaters. Mila Kunis and Emily Blunt were born, beginning a rad fantasy in my mind.
But all of that pales next to the fact that HopTech opened its doors and began blowing homebrewers right out of their mash tuns. HopTech doesn't fuck around. Real people shipping awesome shit straight to you. Their new website is fast and easy to navigate. Or just call 800-379-4677 and let badass bitch Jade and the gadget guy Roberto blow their warm load of customer service all over you. So visit the site or visit the store in Dublin, California and support those that support you. Get your brewing on at hoptech.com.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Jamil Zainashev, and I want to tell you about Heretic Evil Twin. You might be familiar with my homebrew recipe, which uses massive late hopping to create a balance between the malty sweet and the hoppy bitter, along with an outrageous malt and hop character. I wanted a beer with the same bold hop and malt character, so we played around with the homebrew recipe until we were able to make a great commercial version too. We've created a beer rich in malt character, full of caramel, toast, biscuit, and an ever so subtle roast note. On top of that, we piled in an insane amount of Citra and Columbus hops at the end of the boil, as well as in dry hopping. This damn-the-cost approach to hopping gives Heretic's Evil Twin a great blast of citrus and tropical fruit that can't be matched by any other hop. The result is a bold, malty, hoppy, but easy drinking beer. This is our top seller, our flagship beer, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Cheers.
To find Heretic beers near you, click on Find Some at hereticbrewing.com. Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and the freshest ingredients, backed by the best customer service in the business. Do you like to mash using efficient fly sparging, but would like an easy way to heat your strike and sparge water? Enter the new Brewer's Edge electric mash water heater, a plug-in, anywhere, precisely controlled heater for strike and sparge water. Ditch the fumes and second burner and make mashing easy. Go to williamsbrewing.com today and browse their vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 4 p.m. Pacific Time weekdays ship the same day. Brewing is easy the Williams way.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong. Beer.
All right. Crush. Tell me about Crush and how
Alrighty,
that's affected my
crushing
mash.
Is when you take a handful of malt and just kind of rub it between your hands, get it all nice and squishy. And
hey, don't talk about rubbing between my hands something squishy.
Crush is what you do with your cocaine before you snort it. I think is the answer Jamil was looking for.
No, don't. Tell me about Crush. Yeah, I mean, I've always believed that, the finer you crush your malt, the better, the more extract you're going to get, the faster it's going to extract. I mean, is that not true?
Well, it's generally true. If you're at or above the saccharification temperatures, you're above that gelatinization temperature, then a finer crush will give you higher extract, more soluble extract in a shorter amount of time. You can shorten your mash schedule. And, if you've got a fairly standard mash schedule length or, a set mash schedule length, a finer crush is going to give you more extract over a coarser crush.
Yeah, because I always base that off of, if I throw a whole grain in, it really kind of sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't work too well. A finer crush will also therefore give you faster conversion because you're providing more surface area for the enzymes to act on. It's that starch is able to solubilize faster with the finer particle size and so on.
So what doesn't finer crush do then?
Well, again, when you're at or above the saccharification temperatures, it does not generally give you better fermentability. So, if you're looking at, a commercial, or if you're looking at one of your beer recipes and you're saying, I want this to be a drier beer, a more fermentable beer, in crushing it finer is not going to do that for you. Likewise, a finer crush does not generate more free amino nitrogen. Again, when you're at, the saccharification temperature ranges. Protein rest and so on, that's pretty much done.
So in general, crush and the water and enzymes hitting everything, that's where your extract and your conversion happen. And mixing and stirring, and that's what that's going to do.
Right.
What's really, fermentability, free amino nitrogen, all that stuff, the cleaving and all that stuff that's going on, that's, a basis of temperature. And to some extent, probably pH and as well, right?
Right. Yeah, pH has a definite effect. And I'll talk more about that in a second. One other factor that's very closely related to crush, of course, is your water to grist ratio. And we touched on that a few minutes ago briefly, ultra thick mashes versus thin mashes. In general, the effect of the water to grist ratio is kind of a secondary factor. It's a one tier down. It's not a primary factor, but it is a factor. In general, a thicker mash is more protective to enzyme thermostability. So thicker mash will give you a little longer beta amylase life than, say, a thin mash. Now, what am I talking about, thick versus thin? Well, generally, thick ratios are considered to be, in terms of liters per kilogram, 2.3 to about 4. This corresponds to, in terms of quarts per pound, to like a 1.1 to a 2 quarts per pound ratio. Okay? 1.1 to 2 quarts per pound. That's considered a thick mash, or again, 2.3 to 4 liters per kilogram thick mash. That is generally regarded as being best for total extract and total fermentability. A thinner mash, anything that is 4 liters per kilogram, greater than 4 liters per kilogram, greater than 2 quarts per pound, up to 8 liters per kilogram or 4 quarts per pound, that's considered a thin mash. And you do find a lot of German brewers using thin mashes because it's a lot easier to pump through commercial mashing systems and mash filter systems when it's thinner like that.
Right. Not necessarily better for the beer.
Right.
Better for the commercial brewery.
Right. You do, and it's kind of the next tier down in terms of total extract and total fermentability. Still works really well. If you get above, that 4 quarts per pound or 8 liters per kilogram, now you're moving into an area where you have less thermostability, less enzyme density, and you're going to see some drops in performance of that mash.
Less keys for all the locks that are there, or the keys are spread out over a greater area.
Yeah, and there's a higher thermal mass of water per unit enzyme, so they're going to be less thermally stable,
more quickly denaturing, more quickly getting bent, and unusable in the lock.
Right. And an ultra thick mash of anything that's 2 liters per kilogram or less, or 1 quart per pound or less, an ultra thick mash is going to have less favorable performance for extract and fermentability than a thin mash. So that situation will come up because there are home brewers or commercial brewers. They want to brew a really big beer, and so they're trying to get the maximum gravity out of that first runnings that they can. Put in lots of malt, very little water, trying to maximize the poundage or the weight of grain in their mash tun to get as high a gravity extract, or wort out as they can. That's good for getting high gravity extract, but you're not going to get very much of it, and the fermentability of that extract may suffer as a result. So again, understand that trade-off. You'll get very high gravity runnings, but they may not be as fermentable, and certainly the efficiency, the yield, the extract yield is going to be a lot less than what it would be if you had a lower or a more fluid ratio.
What's interesting about that is when brewers do that, when they pack the mash tun and use the thick mash and are trying to get, it's because they're trying to get an ultra high gravity beer. They also tend to, when they do that, add simple sugars. So they add dextrose or cane sugar or Belgian candy sugar or whatever, because they're trying to hit this higher gravity, right? That's why they've maxed out their mash tun. And so that improves fermentability and the total attenuation.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how just the traditional nature of things has kind of dealt with that in a roundabout way.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think when it comes to, and we've done a show or two on high gravity beers, but if you are targeting a very high gravity beer, you can really, excuse me, you can pack the mash tun to try to get that gravity up, but you may be better off in terms of, total expenditure on malt and time and so on, to go for less weight in the mash tun and a more fluid ratio, something around 1.5 quarts per pound and or 3 liters per kilogram, and then just add malt extract at the boil kettle. You've got the fresh malt flavors you want. You've got really good yield and fermentability out of your mash tun, and to make up additional gravity for that ultra high beer, just add some malt extract in your kettle. A lot easier than pushing the mash through that bunch of hoops.
Okay, now what about pH?
Okay, well, pH is interesting. It is a primary factor, but generally, we're trying to operate within the ballpark, within the known ballpark of good performance. The range that we always talk about with regards to pH in the mash is 5.2 to 5.6 or 5.2 to 5.8, cooled and measured at room temperature. That's the generally accepted target range for mash pH. You're going to get good enzyme activity throughout that range. The trade-offs occur kind of between the low end and the high end of the range. So, for example, the total soluble extract yield does not generally change from the low versus the high end of the pH range, 5.2 to 5.8. It doesn't significantly change your total extract between the low end and the high end. Fermentability, again, does not significantly change from the low to the high end of that pH range. On the other hand, the fan content of the wort will generally improve by a small but significant amount at the low end compared to the high end. So if you're down around 5.2 versus 5.6 or 5.8, all else being equal, you're going to get more fan coming out of that wort as a result of that change in pH. A lower mash pH will also decrease the impact of the mash ratio, the water to grist ratio we were just talking about. At higher pHs, at 5, 6, 5, 8, the effect of ultra thick mash versus thick and versus thin is more pronounced. As you come down in pH, that difference decreases. Also, when you're at the lower mash pH of 5.2, you greatly reduce the activity of the lipoxygenase enzyme, which oxidizes fatty acid and causes long-term flavor stability issues, staling of the beer. There's a 50% reduction, according to one study, in lipoxygenase activity at 5.2 versus 5.8 pH. So that's something to be aware of. And, looking at, beginning all-grain brewers or, all-grain brewers that don't have access to pH equipment, this is one aspect of your brewing that you can improve by, paying attention to pH. You can improve your flavor stability. You can potentially improve the flavor of your beer by targeting lower mash temps, pHs, 5.2 to 5.4 end of the scale rather than the high end, which is what often happens when you're brewing with alkaline water. Typical groundwater, city water, higher alkalinity mash pH is probably going to be towards the upper end of the scale rather than the low end. Without adjustment. So,
although on one of these things, on the oxidation of fatty acids, wasn't this one of the things that Bamforth was saying? You can actually kind of overcome it if with good fermentation.
Yeah, there's several different aspects of wort oxidation and its impact on flavor stability. The hot side aeration thing. That is partly lipoxygenase, or lipoxygenase increases the oxidation resulting from hot side aeration. But it's still a factor despite very strong, vigorous fermentation. Lipoxygenase activity is still a factor in flavor stability down the road.
All right. Let's yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so it's not a major worry, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind.
Right. Sure. Yet another thing to worry about for the homebrewer.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our last break, and then when we come back, I want to hear you wrap up this thing in 100 words or less. Right after this.
And now, Northern Brewer presents What If Homebrewers Ruled the World?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll follow me, I will lead you into the gallery area. Now, the first piece up for sale today is a Jamil Zainashev original, a bottle of 1997 vintage Evil Twin.
Oh, I see.
A bidding for this one-of-a-kind piece will start at £7,000. And if you'll continue to follow me, ladies and gentlemen, I can show you a rather abstract piece from Bay Area brewer Justin Crossley. It's a German Doppelbock entitled Justin's Giant Bock. The brewer's notes here indicate that this beer had excellent mouthfeel.
That's just a crazy dream. Or is it? With Northern Brewer, a thirsty nation can craft its own ale and lager for the greater good of mankind. Northern Brewer, the home of superior customer service and the finest selection of homebrewing goods for the future.
Your support of the Brewing Network means everything to us. We couldn't produce shows without you. And we love giving you something extra for that support, like Brew Your Own magazine. You already know it's a great brewing magazine full of recipes, equipment how-tos, discussions of beer styles, and brewing techniques. Whether you're new to brewing and just starting out or you're an old pro, you'll always learn something from the articles in Brew Your Own. Plus, there are amazing special issues like plans for building a Brutus 10 system, 250 classic clone recipes, and the Homebrewer's Answer Book. Brew Your Own magazine and BYO.com are awesome resources for any brewer. Whether for yourself or as a gift, when you subscribe or resubscribe from the Brewing Network homepage, you directly support programs like this. Get a great magazine and support the Brewing Network. Subscribe to Brew Your Own right from the BrewingNetwork.com. Beer tasting games that train your palate, a brewery locator, and the brand new interactive beer style guide. These are just a few of the awesome things you'll find on craftbeer.com. The style guide is a beautiful example of technology in beer. Browse beer style families or turn on the automatic beer style finder and explore beer through color, bitterness, ABV, aroma, and flavor. It's really the coolest way to explore every beer style besides having them all in front of you. Go to craftbeer.com and click on Beer Styles to start the guide. Plus, enjoy the rest of craftbeer.com, the Brewers Banter blogs, beer education, how to host a beer tasting, and the invaluable Draft Quality Manual. Tons of great content that makes your beer better. Visit the new craftbeer.com right now and explore the website that brings you all the passion, camaraderie, and creativity of the craft beer community. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer. Adventures in Homebrewing have the knowledge and expertise to craft their own gear and original recipes. Some of the things homebrewing.org creates and manufactures in-house are the Brutus brew stands and propane burners, the Serial Killer adjustable 2-roller grain mill with 7-pound hopper, custom stainless steel false bottoms designed to fit kegels, coolers, and mini-sized brew pots. The brewers at Adventures in Homebrewing have designed a huge selection of original recipes for extract and all-grain brewing. Adventures in Homebrewing original recipes are tried and tested, proven to be of the best quality. And right now, Adventures in Homebrewing is shipping 24 of their best recipes for free. Visit homebrewing.org for the most current selection. Once you try one of Adventures in Homebrewing recipes, you'll keep coming back for more. And now, it's even easier with free shipping on these kits. Brewing Network listeners receive 10% off their homebrewing.org orders when they use coupon code IPA at checkout. See terms and conditions for full details. For nearly 40 years, one organization has had your back. The American Homebrewers Association. Are you a member? Why not? Join the more than 40,000 brewers who enjoy all the American Homebrewers Association has to offer. Like Zymergy Magazine, in print and online, plus the Zymergy app. Zymergy is the leading publication for amateur brewers around the world. Supporters also get member deals at their local breweries, bars, and homebrew shops. These alone quickly pay for your membership. You'll also get great member-only resources at homebrewersassociation.org and access to AHA events like the National Homebrewers Conference and the National Homebrew Competition. The American Homebrewers Association promotes the hobby of homebrewing, protects the interests of homebrewers, and brings beer lovers together. Become a member today. It costs less than a batch of beer and gives back so much more. Visit homebrewersassociation.org.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. John, wrap up this.
We put the fun in brewing, don't we?
we poop the fun in brewing, yes. Wrap up this this 2-show Ganza of MASH information.
All righty. Well, looking at the scientific literature here, mm-hmm. What it's showing us is that for modern, well-modified malts, that is a Kolbach index of 40 or higher, the best extract yield and fermentability can be achieved by a single temperature infusion mash placed at or slightly above the gelatinization temperature of the malt. And in doing so, more than half of the conversion and dextrinization will have occurred within the first 15 minutes of the mash, and the greater majority of the extract and conversion will be complete within 30 minutes. Small gains in extract and fermentability can still be realized, though, with longer mashing times. So, when you look at this in terms of home brewing scale versus commercial scale, especially with commercial scale, you're going to have, perhaps multiple lots of malt that are within your silo, or, you're going to get several different bags. The gelatinization temperature variation across all these malts is probably going to drive you to choose a little higher mashing temperature, so you get, everything fully soluble and, able to be acted on by the enzymes. So that's one consideration. And you're probably you may want a second mash rest, say such as an alpha rest, to again get the most extract out of that mash. There are a lot of factors at work here in the mash. It's easy to look at, a small scale study, limited factors being changed, but and point to these effects. But when you take that to the practical side and the commercial scale, you've got to kind of take a step back and apply a little fudge factor here and there to make sure that you've got all your bases covered.
Well, and especially also, crappy crush.
Yeah.
So, crush has a huge difference in how fast this all occurs.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
That's what I always tell people. I'm not getting enough extract, and your crush is probably bad, and you're not waiting long enough.
Yeah.
Wait longer is always my advice.
Yep. It's that's a very good point. I mean, that's the practical side of these studies is, we look at and identify what the levers are, but then, keeping those in mind, look at our practical considerations, degree of crush, how long the transit time is through the process, pick your battles. But in general, based on this particular study, for example, they found that they achieved their best extract fermentability with a mash ratio of 2.3 to 1 liters per kilogram, mash schedule of at least 30 to 40 minutes at 64C, followed by another 15 to 20 minutes at 72C or 162F. That provided in their study the highest combination of yield, fermentability, fan, and reduced fatty acid oxidation. So, looking at all the parameters that they were looking at in this study, for their lots of barley, these were the parameters that worked best for them. Again, you've got to take a step back and use your experience and your own analysis of your mash, gravity, degree of fermentability, forced fermentations, and use these numbers and these papers to help you understand what's happening in your own mash to get you your best efficiency.
Well, there you go. I think that's well said. Another fine show, wrapping up the two-show Ganza of mash and time and temperature. Good job, John.
Thank you.
I am pleased. You have earned to avoid the beating, Reek. No problem.
Okay. I'll go find a silver star for me somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. I will bring one with me next time. I'll give you a gold star for this one.
Oh, sweet.
You are. See, that's all it takes to make John happy. He's quite
all right,
the trooper.
well, we'll see you next week at NHC.
Yeah, there you go. All right. If you enjoy this show, make sure to, check out our sponsors. Check out Blickman Engineering, blickmanengineering.com. Innovating your brew day so you have a funner brew day. Check them out. Make sure to go to the Brewing Network store, brewingnetwork.com/store. Lots of goodies in there, and you deserve some. And I'll tell you what, you buy yourself a nice hoodie or hat or glassware or many of the great things they have in there. When you do, all the profits go to the bottom line of the Brewing Network and keep this show on the air. So don't hesitate. Treat yourself today. Until then, everybody, brew strong.
Brew strong.